It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome a living legend, future Hall of Famer, and Super Bowl champion from the football ranks. He played his college ball at Notre Dame, where he was an All-American selection in his senior year of 1993. He was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the first round, 7th overall, of the 1994 NFL Draft. He made honorable mention All-Pro by the Associated Press in 1995, but his best season came a year later. In 1996, he recorded 84 tackles, 11 and a half sacks, and 2 safeties, good enough to earn a spot in the Pro Bowl. He was also a member of the 49ers team that knocked off the San Diego Chargers in Super Bowl 29.
Chandler straight back drop into the end zone. Moves to his, he's going to get sacked for a safety. He tried to move to his left, and Bryant Young gets the safety.
He's a member of the NFL's All-Decades team of the 1990s and became eligible for the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2013. We now welcome Bryant Young to this live stream of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome into another live stream edition of Listen In with KNN Sports Talk Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And look, football is finally here. We've got one more week of preseason before we get into the regular season. So I decided to bring in a former NFL great to join me on the show today to discuss his story and help us break down the games. And again, just to help get us prepared for this season that is coming in 2021. So joining me on today's show is none other than Bryant Young. The name should ring a bell if you're a true football fan. He's a former San Francisco 49ers defensive tackle, as well as one of the great defensive tackles all time in San Francisco 49ers history. All right, so we're making history today on the show. So without further ado, please help me welcome Bryant to the show. Bryant, how are you today? Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Kelsey. I'm excited to be a part of your show. And I have to tell you, your intro, it just... It's sparkling. It's just impactful. It's really,
Thank you so much. That means so much. And that is props to my incredible team that helps me get it done. But we had to do right by you, Bryant. You're a big name. So we had to make sure we brought out all the bells and whistles. But again, thanks so much for joining me. I like to do a wellness check first with my guest, Bryant. How are you feeling? How are you doing? Of course, we know we've been in COVID. We thought things were getting a little bit better. Then this Delta variant comes. And now we're kind of back just scrambling. And we're just trying to make it through safely, Bryant, right? We're all just trying to get through, hopefully, the finish line and some type of normalcy.
That's right. Everything is well. You know, it was pretty much touch and go, just trying to get through it, tread waters, be careful from a health standpoint, and respect others where they are. You know, a lot of what's going on, you know, today, it's really maybe people have a different opinion about what they should or should not do. But it really comes down to being respectful of other space and where other people stand. And so that we can all get through this thing very healthy and move out in a positive direction.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to move in a positive direction. And look, it's even gotten to the NFL now, Brian. I know you've seen the headlines. We have some players that are vaccinated, some that are not. We're seeing players getting fined for not wearing masks in practice facilities. Could you imagine being in the NFL right now, just playing with all of these different things going on? And then we're hearing players talk about personal choice. So kind of from the outside looking in, what has kind of been your thought as you look at these NFL players, just try to figure out what they want to do with their own body, but they also want to play football and get paid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're in a position where these players, you have to give them their own right to choose, but there's a lot at stake in terms of the game that they play and the people that are behind it and what's at stake in terms of just the health and the revenue that's made from this and generated. This game really impacts a lot of people, but at the same time, you have to honor and respect where each player stands.
Yeah.
I think with where we are today with the medicine and the vaccine and all that, it's safe. It's very safe. And so, but you also have to understand where certain players are in terms of, want to express their rights, and if they choose to, that's awesome, and it helps everybody. But also, if they don't, that's their stance, and hopefully they come around sooner than later.
Yeah, I think that's what many football fans are saying, Brian. Hopefully they come around sooner than later. Look, I get it's a personal choice, right? But we do want people to be safe. And I'm just going to trust science, Brian. Like, I didn't go to school to be a doctor, but if this is what the doctors say to do, I'm going to do it. And like when I was a baby, they stick you with all types of things when you're a baby to protect you. And so I think that's what we want to see. But again, we see this, but it's going to be interesting to watch because as we know now, teams will have to forfeit if they don't have enough players to play the football game. We saw that happen last year with games being rescheduled, not forfeiting. But now I think that can really impact a locker room, right? And then you guys can't kind of do the same things. And you think about team outings, like we're just looking at everything differently. So I think it is going to be something that we continue to follow closely as the NFL season moves on. Just curious, has anybody reached out to you, Brian, any current players or younger players with just any advice in terms of COVID-19 and just kind of how to figure things out with their teams and their teammates?
Well, I think the biggest thing too is that when you have your own bubble, it's when you leave that bubble that it becomes detrimental to the bubble. Like you have to be careful what you do outside of that organization. And so, just being intentional, making sure you're taking the necessary steps not to put yourself in harm's way, because if you do, you potentially endanger that bubble. So it's a lot, I think the league overall last year did a great job just managing everything. I mean, the first of its kind ever. So you got through it. There's a few hiccups here and there, but who would have known? It's not like you had experience going through something like this
at all, right?
They were able to get through it, as best they can and have a season. And so I just hope moving forward, they continue to do that and players continue to respect and honor people's decision and how they work to help everybody else.
Exactly. Like, again, we just want people to have their own right and choice, but we want to move forward and people want football. Brian, we finally got fans back in the stands. That's going to make a difference. Fans are buying their season tickets like crazy. And I think for the rookies last year, Brian, who didn't get a chance to play in front of fans, how big do you think this will be for them to see fans back in the stands, screaming their name, wearing their jerseys? Like, that is a hype booster, right? When you're on the football field.
Absolutely. It's something about the game. I think for the veteran players, it was so easy to just go out there and it was business and business as usual. And so for them, they were accustomed to just going out there with or without the crowd. I mean, it was something that they could, shift their mind and say, hey, okay, fans are not here, but I still have a job to do.
Right.
Whereas the younger guys, the rookie guys, it's like, oh man, this is way different. And you quickly have to get adjusted to it. But I can only imagine that the rookies that didn't have the fans in the stands last year, they're going to be so excited. I know they've been excited in the preseason, but they'll continue to be excited as the regular season comes around, just to have the fans, because it's really about the fans. And when you don't have or hear them live, I can imagine it's different, And so sometimes you can play and you feed off the energy of the fans.
Yeah, the energy of the fans.
Definitely, it can impact the game for sure in terms of the energy that it brings to the players.
especially football fans. They are passionate, especially depending on which stadium you're in. I know you know all about this, Brian.
Yes.
Talking about that, let's talk about some favorite memories with fans. Is there any one particular memory that stands out the most, Brian, when you think about, and we'll do college or pro from just the fans' perspective of rooting for you? Any favorite fan memories?
There was one fan back in Notre Dame. There's Keith Penrod. He was a really good friend, just very passionate guy. Was there through thick and thin. Came to almost every practice, and was there at every game. But just a great support. I really loved the Irish, and but just was fanatic about his team. And so when you see guys like that, you know that really understand it, that are in your corner, you really get to understand them a little bit, and
Right.
and they give you motivation to continue to do it, because you know if it's just that one guy and you have that relationship with them,
Yeah.
there are many more people like that. And so, but moving forward, there are so many other people that I've had the opportunity to come across, and that were so impactful during my career. It's important, you know, that we understand that as players, that it's the fans that really drive this game. They pay the bills, they pay the check,
Yeah.
and so it's important, you know, that we understand that as players, that they're a big part of this.
Right. They're a huge part of it. And look, many fans feel like they're the coaches too. They're telling you all what to do, screaming at their TVs, like, wait, go this way, right? So, I mean, we just know how impactful fans can be, especially at a school like Notre Dame, where we know football reigns supreme. And since we're talking about Notre Dame, let's just get into it. Let's talk about your career there playing football, going from where you grew up, or where you're born, from Chicago Heights, Illinois, to Notre Dame. What was that transition like for you? Was it easy for you? Was it hard? Let's talk about that first year on campus, because of course you did play for Notre Dame from 1990 to 93.
Yeah, so the first year, I would say it was a little bit of an adjustment from a playing standpoint. You know, the schedule was a lot different. The competition was definitely a lot different.
Yeah.
Where you had, you know, seasoned guys that were, you know, maybe their third or fourth or fifth year.
Right.
But the talent level was definitely different. The speed of the game was different, and so that was a huge adjustment in terms of that. From an academic standpoint, you know, it was an adjustment as well. Just learning how to manage your time well. You're away from home, and it's like you don't have mom and dad, you know, telling you what to do, when to do it, and so you're left on your own to make those decisions. And so you quickly have to grow up and decide, you know, hey, I have to do what's best for me in these situations, so that I could put myself in position to be successful, not only for me, but for my team. And so I think any kid that, you know, goes from the high school to college level, it's an adjustment. There's a transition that happens, that it's important that they go through. And the quicker that they understand, you know, it definitely can be a lot easier in terms of transitioning. But I had a lot of fun my freshman year, made some great relationships, had an awesome class in my 1994 class. And it was just incredible. Even people that I made relationships with, you know, during my freshman year that didn't play athletics, participate in sports. You know, there were some lasting relationships that were made during that time.
Yeah, I think that's what's so impactful about college. You make really like lifelong relationships in school that you can take far beyond. And as we're talking about Notre Dame football, I do want to touch on, you served as Irish captain in 1993, earning first team All-American honors that season as well. What was it like when you're named captain of such a distinguished program for you? Like, what honor did that carry for you?
Yeah, it's a huge honor. It comes with a lot of responsibility when you think about all the people that came before you, that led the program, that were voted on by their peers,
right?
To be a captain. You know, that's a huge honor, and something that you don't want to take for granted. And so there's a huge responsibility that comes with that in terms of how to lead and lead well. And so it was you know, I was grateful to be able to be in that position, and be a part of such a unique opportunity to lead in that way. And so I felt like it was my responsibility also to not only, when the torch was handed to me, to be able to leave it just a little bit better than I found it. And so it was a fun opportunity to be a captain at Notre Dame.
I'm sure. And while you were captain there, just all the success you had overall in your career at Notre Dame, from 90 to 93 people, 48-1 record during those 4 years. Just wow, Brian. Like, who were you all? You guys didn't, nobody else had a chance. Like, when you hear that record back now, are you still proud of it?
You know what? It's like, wow. It's like, okay, wow, we were that.
You were that good.
and so, but there were some games, you think about how many games we won and our win-loss record, it was like, man, there were some games that we should have won that could have been a lot better. so you're always thinking about, the opportunities that were missed, but certainly understanding that it don't always happen like that for different programs. And so I was very, very fortunate to be a part of such a great program, school, and win with the guys that I played with.
Hopefully some of that luck will rub off on my Maryland Terps and their football program, Brian. I want to be able to talk about them like that one day. But staying on Notre Dame, you also had a chance to play in 4 bowl games at Notre Dame. I mean, I know that had to be just a magnificent experience. Talk about just that, what that was like for you. Again, to go from high school to now playing for a top program to playing with all of these eyes on you, right? In national televised bowl games.
You know what? It was cool because you realize that first year how critically, well, even before in the recruiting process, during the recruiting process, I got a call from, I think it was John Foley, who was not playing at the time. He was a student athlete that had got hurt, but was helping wherever he could in recruiting. But he had reached out to me, and it was at the Orange Bowl, I think it was, one of the bowl games, and I thought that was pretty cool for him to reach out to me during that time while I was still in high school. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool that he's at the bowl game and he's calling me. So it was during that time I got a taste of it, but being in the program and understanding how critically important to be able to play on a January 1 at that time, January 1, it was such an honor to do that. And so, that was what we were always pushing for, is getting one of the best bowl games to put us in the position to win a national championship. And so it was fun, to have that long season, to be practicing in December or late in November and then playing in January, and understanding that a lot of people don't get those opportunities. I think having done that for 4 years really helped me just transition a lot faster my rookie year.
Yeah, to that next level again, because you were experienced, and while others were sad and weeping about not still playing, you were practicing in the cold, getting ready for those bowl games, something so special. And staying with Notre Dame, what was the feeling like when you get to go back to Notre Dame as a graduate assistant coach back in 2009? Like, kind of seeing life come full circle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Left the university. I hadn't really been back at all during my time playing, and so the first time back on campus was the year I retired in 2008, and so I had a chance to take my family back there, and we watched the game and kind of take it all in. And just at that time, I knew how special Notre Dame was. I would go on there, but seeing it from the other side as a kind of a fan and that perspective, it was really, really cool. And then just figuring out what I wanted to do, going back in 2009 and being a coach there was one of the greatest times of my coaching career, just to get my feet wet and be a part of the program and coach and help the program as best I could. And so it was awesome.
And I know for them, it was great to have you come back and be able to teach the young guys what it really takes, because you had been there, you had lived it, you had experienced it. And you talked about how Notre Dame prepared you for the next level. So let's talk about that next level, right? We're getting ready to go pro. First round draft pick from Notre Dame in 94, 7th overall selection. First off, let's talk about what that experience was like when you finally get to know that you're about to be playing on the top level, Brian. Do you remember what that moment was like for you?
I do. Kind of. It's funny. I'm gonna go back a little bit. When you think about as a kid, watching the NFL and thinking about, wow, okay, maybe one day, but not knowing that it can happen. Yeah. And then going through the process of high school ball, and then finally, playing in college, and then realizing that there's a real opportunity for this to happen. And for me, it was like, it wasn't luck. People like, oh, you're so lucky. But like, no, it wasn't luck.
You worked
A
for
lot
it.
of hard work and sacrifice that went into this. But to realize that your labor and all the intense workouts and the focus and the discipline, and things that you had to put forth to make it happen, and for it to finally come to fruition, it was surreal. It was surreal to get my name called on draft day, and so, but I'd say it's a dream come true, but it's a dream that was realized by hard work, by sacrifices, but also by the village that was around me and that I was a part of, that made it happen as well.
Yeah, that village is so important. But like you said, it takes hard work. It wasn't luck that got you there. It was people realizing just how talented you were and then wanting to bring your talents to their football team. And staying on that, while we just talk about kind of the hard work that was put in, what is your earliest memory of playing football? Like, when did you know you loved the game of football and that you were going to make it a reality, Bryant?
Well, I tell you what, I didn't start playing organized football until high school. And I think that was a blessing, though, to be honest, because even before then, I learned the toughness before I actually played organized football, and that was playing tackle football in the open field with no pads on, just with friends in the neighborhood, and it would get pretty competitive. We would go to Ashland Park back in Chicago Heights, Illinois, and it was people in our neighborhood who were, some were older, some were my age, and some may have been a year or two younger. And, it was kind of a rite of passage to be able to participate in those games. You guys would, sometimes we play in the winter, we get all, sweatered up and padded up, throw on as many layers as you possibly can. And people were trying to take your head off, and so you had to really protect yourself, but you also had to be tough. So I think it was there that, I learned that football was about toughness. And so having experienced that, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot in terms of how to compete, that it's a tough sport. But then having an opportunity now to go play it in high school, organized football, it was like, okay, I got a lot to learn. There's things that I think I know, but there's so much more that I need to learn. And so, but I knew I loved to compete. I knew I loved to hit. And then felt good from being able to move a man from point A to B, and to go tackle a running back, to strip the ball off the quarterback or sack the quarterback. So all those things felt good. So I fell in love with it my freshman year of high school. And so from there, it was just like, man, I'm going to work as hard as I can to continue to be one of the best players out there on the football field.
Yeah, and you never look back. And talking about being one of the best players on the football field, that you were, Brian. You went on to play 14 seasons in the National Football League for the San Francisco 49ers. Let's talk about that. First off, 14 years playing this game that so many of us love. When you think about the average longevity of a player, it's a couple years, 14 seasons with the same franchise. I mean, how special is that to you when you look back now, Brian?
It's really special. I look back on it and I pinch myself sometimes, because I realize, like, man, that's a pretty long time for an interior defensive lineman. And so a lot of guys, I think the average is, 3 years or less. But to play that long, it's like, wow. But it's by no chance. I understood that, again, it goes back to the hard work and dedication and the sacrifices that are made. And then all the work that you have to put in the off season. To make it happen, you have to, even as your career moves along, you have to adjust and adapt and change a little bit and find out different ways to challenge yourself to be better. Even if you had a successful year, one year, every year is so different than the next year. So it was like finding that next motivating factor, or finding that one thing that you can improve on to be that much better. And so that in itself kept me driven. Wanting to be the best kept me driven and wanting more. And and also I played this game with myself too. Like I had to pretend like I was the underdog all the time. And so that kept me just angering.
Mhm.
And I would say a lot of times, people kind of misunderstand me a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'd say that there was always this anger in me. I
Mhm.
just had a way of hiding it. And so when it was time to turn it on, football was the right outlet for me. And
Mhm.
so it was a beautiful thing just in terms of how to be able to have an outlet.
Yeah.
But anyway, but just, 14 years, all that went into it, even through the injuries, and just the challenges that it presented, and wanting to come back and prove myself wrong or prove others wrong. Those were all motivating things, but just the love of the game. And then, wanting to do it for others and those that couldn't do it. It was motivating for me to continue to play as long as I can.
I love you touched on kind of just that underdog mentality because I think that drives people. I feel like I'm the same way, which is why I work so hard. It's always not about what I did yesterday, but what have I done lately, right? Always kind of
Yeah.
trying to improve. And when I think about you, Brian, I think so many people know your greatness, especially in San Francisco. But to be known, what some people would call as an underrated player, do you think that kind of drove you as well a lot? Just knowing that you kind of were always just trying to prove yourself to others, even when you knew that you were great.
That's interesting. You mentioned that because I'm not going to be the first one in the line to go you know volunteer to speak to the crowd or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever is necessary, I'm going to do. But I always wanted to make sure that my actions spoke louder than words,
Mhm.
as opposed to my mouth speaking volumes and my actions didn't. And so for me, I was always trying to put that in the forefront, like be the best player that I possibly can, but also earning the right to speak. And when you speak, it has credibility,
Mhm.
and it has impact.
Mhm.
And so for me, just um, it bothered me at times, that because I wasn't this very vocal, boisterous guy, that
Right.
for some reason that correlated with how I played the game and the impact that I had on the game, and that by any stretch of the imagination is that's not true.
Yeah.
So if you look at the body of work and all that's been done, I'd say that that speaks volumes in itself, as opposed to me talking about it,
Yeah.
but wanting to go out there and prove it.
I think that's huge because look, like you said, actions speak louder than words. But I think you're right because I think in football, I think naturally people kind of will look at that person who maybe is the loudest, right? So here in the DMV area, I think about a team like Baltimore, where Ray Lewis was for so long, right? So someone that not only got it done on the football field, but he was known as a very vocal guy. But I think sometimes people have this weird thing in their mind where they think if someone's not boisterous that they're not sometimes a leader or stepping up, and that's not true. And not everybody is a vocal person. I think people have to realize that too. And like you said, different things drive different people. For some,
Absolutely.
talking. For others, hey, no one wanted to get hit by you, Bryant. So I would say
Yeah.
that's the other thing as well. But I'm glad that you touched on that. I think it's something again that we even see in football now, where people
Yeah.
are looking for you to be loud and boisterous, but that's not every football player.
Yeah, and you have to respect other people's personality. I think when you look at football in itself, okay, and you look at just the tape,
Hmm.
and it's muted. What is that saying?
Yeah.
Like, is that speaking to you?
Mm.
And then if that's speaking to you, then judge it on that, and then the impact that that's having.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that look well said. Well said. And talking about the impact that it had, I'm just going to go over some of your stats, Brian, because they deserve to be heard. 49ers career leader in quarterback sacks with 89.5, named to the NFL's all-decade team of the 1990s, a two-time first-team All-Pro, and a four-time Pro Bowl selection. You think about 49ers Super Bowl champion. It just goes on and on and on and on. And to do all of this and leave this lasting legacy in San Francisco, when you look at San Francisco now, what weight does it hold in your heart?
Oh man, San Francisco, and it's a very special place for me. One that I embraced because they first embraced me,
Mm-hmm.
and they loved me, and I loved them back, and I loved them hard back, and I wanted to give my heart and sold to that place through the thick and the thin. And it meant a lot to me. I think how I was brought up in terms of being loyal and being committed, and then wearing the brand with the badge as an honor.
Yeah.
That meant a whole ton to me. And so understanding too, like what was done and how it was established, the importance that it carried for me to be able to continue to move it and advance it in the best way possible, that mattered to me. That was I took pride in that, trying to do it the best that I could for those that came before me, to be able to hand it now to the next generation of players. And so San Francisco, all the, from ownership to the coaches to the, maintenance to all the support staff, everybody in the organization, it's just such a unique place, and it's special to me. And so my connection there, it's like, it's family. It's really family.
Truly, football is family. And just talking more about your accomplishments in San Francisco, and something that also must be special to you is to have your teammates vote you 8 times as the winner of the 49ers' prestigious Lynn Eshmont Award for courageous and inspirational play. I mean, to win that so many numerous times, something that's not easily done, and to have your teammates vote for you for that, Bryant, when you look back, what does that mean to you?
It's special. It really is, because when it comes down to, when it comes down to national, people may not see all that happens, all that goes into the product and behind the scenes. And so to have the people that you go to work with every day to understand who you are and how much time and the work and the commitment that you have for the organization, and your willingness to do whatever you possibly can to be successful for them, it's special to me. It really is, because I think about so many other players that deserve that award in those years that I won it, and they had my vote. But it always is humbling. I can say that, Kelsey. It really is humbling, and it gets me emotional when I think about just having won it 8 times, and those who've come before me having won it multiple times, who've been really, really good players. But to be able to do that and garner the respect from my teammates during those years, I'm very honored that they would choose me.
It's special. It's special. And there's no bond like that teammate bond and that brotherhood that you all have. And not to keep making you emotional, Brian, but then to go.
I'm not going to cry.
Look, we keep it real on this show.
Not yet. Maybe.
That Bryant Young crying, look, because so many know what you did as a defensive presence. But I mean, talking about too, just getting elected, right, into the San Francisco 49ers Hall of Fame in 2020. And of course, I know it was a COVID year. We're excited to see that happen. But what was that like when you got that call up? Again, just staying on San Francisco, what San Francisco meant to you, but now to be just enshrined with the greats of a franchise that not only you loved, but loved you back.
Yeah, that was emotional. Just thinking about Dwight Clark and Ronnie Lott and Joe Montana, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, and so many other, Jimmy Johnson, and man, just so many other great players. Fred Dean, who passed away, that had that honor, and to be mentioned among those men who've accomplished much, and to be a part of that unique brotherhood, ownership, and as well, and coaches who've been a part of that. It is such an honor. And I am beyond just still pinching myself that I'm a part of that unique club, and that's certainly a credit to the people that I played with, that I went to battle with on Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays, any day of the week, that I practiced with. And so when I think about, not only just that accomplishment, but it's all that we're a part of it, because there was an offensive lineman across from me that made me better, that challenged me in some way to continue to work hard and be the best. And so hopefully I did that for them, because I know they did it for me to make me a better player. And I could name off a bunch of guys that I played that I practiced against, that I played with. Derek D, Steve Wallace, Harris Barden, Jesse Sapolo.
Yeah.
And I could go Eric Heitman, Joe Staley. How about that one?
Yes.
Yeah. And so there's so many other, players and not only that I played against that sharpened me to make, but guys that I played alongside with and behind me that challenged me and that were part of that village. And so everybody, had a unique part of that. And so with this honor, I do remember all that are involved, and they are part of this as well.
Yeah, everybody that made it special. And I'm so glad, I have to tell you, Brian, that they waited to do it in front of fans. I think that's going to be huge. I think fans want to be a part of that. But again, just everyone that came together. But still, you earned that. Again, hard work earned that, Brian. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course, my pleasure. And as we talk about the Hall of Fame, I know you probably get asked this a lot, but there's many that are rooting for you to go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Brian. Is that something that you think about a lot, or is it something that you just kind of brush off when you get those questions?
I'd be lying if I say I brush it off. I do think about it because I think I deserve to be in there. And when that happens, I don't know. But certainly only time will tell. And, there's a process to everything. But I'll say that, that hopefully one day I am part of that special, unique brotherhood. And so we'll see.
Yeah, look, fingers crossed for you, Brian. You have a lot of people rooting for you. And to those that have been following along, he was announced as one of the 15 finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2020. So we're rooting for you to get into that finalist class. But again, I think your work proved it on the football field. So I'm glad that you touched on that, and we'll continue to watch that closely. And then going from, let's actually go to your last year of football, right? When it's time to hang it up. It's something that no one prepares you for, right, Bryant? You started 208 games until you retired after the 2007 season. When did you just know it was time? Like it was time to give up the game that you loved?
I had been as it got closer to year 10, 11, 12, it became like, okay, next step. 13, it was like, okay, this is getting real close.
Yeah.
But I had started a process about 2 years before I retired. And it was Ray Rude is the guy that I hired to work with. Mm-hmm. And basically I went through this process where Ray and I would get together, and it was basically an interview process and just kind of tapping into things personality wise, what, things that motivated me that didn't, my strengths and weaknesses, really understanding who I am and how I worked and operated, things that I was good at, things that I wasn't. So I kind of went through that whole process and was answering some questions. I even engaged other people to answer some questions for me. Even from a personality standpoint or, whatever. And so it was a very unique process, kind of a long process that helped me kind of answer some questions about which direction I wanted to head in post-career.
Right.
And so one of them was coaching. And so I thought I wanted to coach. I wasn't sure, I'll say this, Kelsey. I would say if you ask 10 people, 10 of my teammates, okay, I would say 9 of the 10 of them would say that I would never have guessed BY to ever go into coaching.
Really? Tell us why now, Bryant.
I was just this reserved, very introspective. I was always in my head, but very kind of introvert. Didn't say a whole lot. I had my little bubble. And so I was just kind of respectful of other people's space. And but it was just something that I thought I loved and wanted to do. And so the only way to try it was to go ahead and touch it and feel it and see if the shoe fit. And so I was able to do that in 2009 and coach at Notre Dame as a graduate assistant, and then move on there to San Jose State and then to University of Florida. And then eventually coming back into coaching and coaching in the NFL with the Falcons. And so I loved it. I love the coach mentor aspect. I love winning. I love being close to the game. I love teaching the technique and game planning and really studying film and just understanding concepts and schemes and how to defeat different players, unique player style, and just helping other guys realize that. For me, it was kind of it was close to being a player without being a player, but having somebody else kind of live it and realize it, and just kind of passing on the torch a little bit to help other people accomplish their dreams, goals, and aspirations.
Yeah, I think that's what the best thing about coaching is. You become that mentor. You get to see other people achieve their dreams, and you're just helping be a part of it. And so I want to ask you, Bryant, what do you think you learned most about yourself as a coach? What did you find out about yourself that maybe you didn't know was inside you until you became on the other side of things and started coaching?
I got a short fuse at times.
Not Bryant Young.
People don't know that. Don't tell them, though. And there's a green man inside of me somewhere.
You touched on that. Look, sometimes as a coach, you need that short fuse. Like, y'all need to
like a green man, like he's really, really green. But coaching, it definitely taught me patience. I thought my kids taught me a lot of patience, but it's a developmental sport, and it requires patience when you're working with guys. I had this one player that really challenged me. He made me a better coach, not because he was a great player, but because he required special attention, and he required me to speak his language that he can understand, and so that he can go out there and play the game.
Yeah.
And so, man, I tell you what, I appreciated that particular period of time that I had with that young man, because it did help me become a better coach, a better teacher too. And so, yeah, there's just a lot of lessons learned for sure in that regard. But certainly that young man helped me become a better coach and a better teacher.
Yeah. And as you look, with coaching, Bryant, what's next?
You know what's next? So I still coach. I coach here at a high school here in North Carolina, and my son's part of this team, and just trying to help develop him along with the other young men that are on this team. I am involved in a few charities and work behind the scenes, and just trying to help. I'm looking at a couple business ventures as well. I'm always kind of keeping my ears and eyes open, asking questions, still learning different things and challenging myself in that regard. So what next? I'm coaching, but it's not out of the question to get back into coaching full time.
Okay.
So I definitely look forward to that one day, as time moves forward and the shoe fits.
Yeah, I think you around football just equals success. So we'll be looking out for that. I'm so glad that you also touched on some of your charity efforts. I love seeing that picture of you on the golf course for the Boys and Girls Club, helping to raise over $400,000. I'm a Boys and Girls Club kid, so that made me smile, Bryant. So
awesome.
Great. And golf, I'm going to have to learn. That's what everybody does now, Brian. So that's also in my
I used to play a lot years ago, and as I got older, I couldn't justify wasting that much time when I started having kids. So I was like, you know what? Let me not play as much. But I do love lending my time to such great causes that brings awareness and funds to incredible organizations that could have such an impact in the community. And so anytime I could, be of service or lend my time and talent and treasure to an event, definitely I will be a part of that. And Keena Turner, whom the event I participated in, has done such an incredible job over the years. I think it was this 26th year of doing his tournament. So I was just thrilled to be a part of that. I had done it before, but it had been some years since being able to be a part of it.
That's huge. That's huge. I love to see that. I want to go to the questions from the fans real quick. And I love this question for you. Not sure if you've ever been asked but did you ever consider signing with another team during your career? And if so, how advanced did those talks get? Basically, we want to know all the details, Brian.
Yeah. I never became a free agent. And so there were times where I'll say this. I was really committed to starting something and finishing it all the way through. And there was a time where I thought that I may would get traded. And so there were some talks behind. There were some rumors that if I got cut, there was some teams that might be interested, but that never happened. And I was just fortunate that I was able to see my career finish with the 49ers.
Yeah, and I'm sure the 49ers fans were also happy to see your career finish with the 49ers. And talking about the 49ers, Brian, I got to get your thoughts on this team so far. Lots of eyes on them. So let's start with this quarterback position. Trey Lance, Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan saying, we know who it is, but I'm not telling you all yet who's going to be the starter. What have been your thoughts kind of watching that battle duel out?
Well, I think this acquisition, this draft of Trey Lance is a great pickup for us moving forward. I think it's helped us as an organization, as a team. He's only going to get better. I think it challenges Jimmy Garoppolo in a lot of ways that when you have somebody that's really, really talented, they can push you and make you become a better player.
Yeah.
And so, and I'll say Jimmy is a winning quarterback. He's 22 of 8, I believe, of the games he's played. A healthy Jimmy Garoppolo gives you a chance to win. But I really think they have a great problem, that if Jimmy, God forbid, gets hurt, they have this young, talented guy who can come in and do some incredible things. He's athletic, he's strong, can throw, any ball that they want, and understands the offense, and will only get better. So if something ever happened to Jimmy and he got dinged or whatever, you got this young guy that can come in and make it happen too. Or, the other scenario, if, God forbid, Jimmy just, it's not clicking for him and he's not playing well, they now take a chance on this young quarterback who's very, very promising. And so they have a very, very good problem. But I think they're going to do well. I think Jimmy's going to have an incredible year. Yeah. I think Trey benefits a healthy, playing well Jimmy Garoppolo. Gives Trey Lance the opportunity to grow and develop behind the scenes. And that's the perfect scenario that you want, because, as you move forward, you have this incredible talent behind Jimmy. And, however long that lasts, that 1-2 combination lasts, you got another good quarterback that's sitting there waiting to play that could be a great asset for you.
And that's huge. And I feel like football is kind of a next man up sport, right? And when you're called upon, they're expecting you to deliver. So I think
absolutely.
For Trey, he's in a good position. He's in a good place. And, I'm wishing success for both of them. It'll be interesting. I thought it was interesting. Kyle Shanahan noted what New Orleans might be doing with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. And we don't know what they'll do with the quarterback situation. But, people also reference what happened here in Baltimore when Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson was a rookie.
Yeah.
Baltimore uniquely used them. So who knows? Kyle tells me.
There could be a 1-2 combination. You just never know. I think it also benefits, the organization and as they move forward to give Lance some snaps, during the course of the year. And that's if, Jimmy's playing well too. You allow Trey to come in and take some snaps, and you continue to build his confidence, and he's continuing to develop. Yeah. So I think they have, like I said, a great problem. I mean, you can go either way with that.
Like you said, a good problem to have, because look, you need a good quarterback, and sometimes I wish I had that problem that they have in San Francisco. And talking about somebody who's going to be a problem on the football field, I know you're a fan of him, Nick Bosa, right? Taking part in his first team drills. People are excited about him working his way back. We of course know last season's season-ending knee injury, which was hurtful, but had a sack on one of his first days back in practice. So what do you think we're going to expect from him this season?
I think I'm sure he's trained extremely hard and rehab back to health. And I think they've been doing a really good job managing him in the off season, making sure that he get enough reps in practice, but never too many reps where it will set him back.
Right.
So that's been a good thing in terms of how they managed his reps. I don't think he's played any preseason, so that's been good. You don't want to risk that at all. I think his first year he played, he didn't have any preseason, or maybe it was last year he didn't have preseason. I know most of the teams didn't have preseason; they just started playing. I really think he's going to pick up where he left off. That's my hope. He's a young talent. He brings a lot of energy and juice to that team. He's just one of those guys that just goes out there and lines up, does his job, and he has fun doing it, and people get excited about it. He helps his team win. I'm a fan.
Yes, people like Nick Bosa, and of course, if he can get back to where he was and give us more, that's pretty scary, I think, for other teams around the National Football League. And Brian, have you had a chance to catch a lot of preseason football so far?
A little bit, yeah.
Anybody that's
not a lot, a little bit.
Just a little bit of football. Is there anybody that stood out to you so far? It's okay if people.
Yeah, I watched the Saints games the other day. I think they'll be a unique team to watch, especially with the two quarterbacks that they could possibly play with. I know their defense is pretty stout, and they did some really incredible things. So that'll be the one team. I'm interested in seeing. I saw bits and pieces of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Without Julio, but Calvin Ridley is just a dynamic player. And then they go and add Pitts, who's just an incredible athlete at the tight end position, who just is a monster with matchups. And so there you have another 1-2 combination in receiving duo. And so I'm interested in watching them play and develop. And you got a quarterback who's done amazing things throughout his career. So he's going to be in position to get those guys the ball. I think they just, in terms of the running game, I'm not sure how that's going to work. And I know defensively, they got some really good players on that side of the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to watch. And of course, we also have the awards that will be coming up. We're looking at our players, looking at Defensive Rookie of the Year. We're looking at Offensive Rookie of the Year. Something that you won, Bryant, Comeback Player of the Year in 1999 after a broken leg had ended your previous season after 12 games. So when I talk about the Comeback Player of the Year, I'm actually curious to talk with you about this, because in Washington here, of course, we know last season Alex Smith won that award. And I think anybody who knows football was just inspired by Alex Smith's story. But, for you to win that award, Brian, I know we didn't talk about this when we're talking about the 49ers, but what was that like for you? And when you think about players who might win that award this year, we talked about Nick Bosa or any other favorites. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, he's real. I think Nick is the only player I really kind of know. Who else? You name some candidates, and then it'll refresh my memory. But the one guy that I'm rooting for to win that award.
Mike Prescott is another one, right? If his shoulder.
There we go. So you got some great candidates. But I think if Nick stays healthy and he's the player that he's displayed already, he'll win that award, in my opinion.
It's gonna be huge.
But yeah, that's nobody wants to be in that position for that award. But if you're ever one of those candidates, you certainly you're trying to pick up where you left off, and so it's a hard one, But I tell you what, it's a gratifying feeling to be able to win that and be honored in such a way to say, hey, you know what, this guy overcame so much when no one else thought much of him having a chance to come back and play, not only play, but play at a high level. And so there's such a unique award. And that's one that I'm very proud of as well.
Yeah, it's huge. And on that note, just any advice you would give to a player that's overcoming adversity, trying to get back from injury, to just keep pushing through?
Yeah, keep pushing through. There are going to be moments. There were moments for me, and I know, Alex can attest, and anybody that's been injured can attest to as well, that there are days when it just seemed like you're not getting better. It's not going anywhere. You begin to doubt yourself or doubt the process, or just doubting that this injury is going to heal the way it needs to for you to step back on the field. But my advice is stay hopeful, keep the faith, and continue to work and realize our goals, dreams, and aspiration. Because when you do that, when you keep your eye on the prize or on the horizon, and you keep moving forward, this too shall pass. It's just a little bump in the road or plateau that you just need to continue to move forward over. And so those are moments where you're challenged to test you. But I just say stay hopeful and keep the faith.
Stay hopeful and keep the faith. Words well said, Bryant Young. It's been such a pleasure to have you. I've sent a special shout out and thank you to Lita, who connected us. So obviously your family is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and and I'd like to say a happy special birthday to her twin Leah.
Yes. Happy birthday.
We lost Leah 5 years ago. Such a special friend, and to my godson Josh Jones, such a beautiful soul, salt and light of the earth. I just want to give a special shout out to him to continue to carry on her legacy and her dream of doing special things on this earth. Love you, man.
Yes, Joshua was an amazing man. He's been on the show too, Brian, and impressed me. Yes, impressed me. And now I'm glad to call him a friend. So excited to see what he'll continue to do. Just a special young man. You have a special family. And that being said, Brian, I hope you all stay healthy. You all stay well. And again, thanks so much for your time. Tell the kids thanks for letting me still dad for an hour.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Kelsey.
My pleasure. Thanks again so much. Any last words for listening audience, Brian, before I let you go?
Well, just keep the peace and again, do your job. Let's be responsible as we move forward and get healthy as a world.
Yes, let's get healthy as a world, Brian. Thanks so much. Have a great one. Stay safe and enjoy preseason and college football. All right, Brian?
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in again to the special live stream edition of Listen In with KNN. I'm so excited for our upcoming episodes. We'll have someone joining us from the National Football League front office. And then next week, we're going to have someone that is pretty much a player that you should be watching in the high school ranks and even has some ties to Drake. All right. Those are going to be my hints that I drop, but super excited for that. So we're bringing more basketball, more football talk, and so much more. And before I go, just a very special thanks to you all for tuning in each and every week. I could not do it without you all. And a special congrats to my brand new team of interns that joined the team. Soon you all will see their names, where they're from. Please show them love. We'll be calling them out on social media and check out all of their new articles on our Fox Sports 1340 AM site. But again, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, enjoy preseason football. Last week, college football is finally here and back, so we're excited for that and so much more. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great one. Bye.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.
Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio now offers official Kelsey Nicole Nelson apparel in a variety of styles for men and women. Fashionable shirts, leggings, hats, jackets, and more. Order now and get 15% off and free shipping. Just enter promo code KNN. Get your Listen In with KNN wearables today. And check out Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio with Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
You used to hear me on your airwaves or hear me on my hit podcast, but now I'm taking you to the screen. You'll love Elevator Thoughts. We will talk the latest trending in sports. It's game time. What better way to get to know those that visit the show than over some good food and drink? It's time for confessions.